Hello students, myself Satish Kumar Konidala, Assistant Professor, School of Pharmaceutical Sciences, Vignan Foundation for Science, Technology and Research, Guntur. In previous video, we discussed about the chemistry of antihypertensive drugs. In that, we discussed about the chemistry of angiotensin receptor antagonist, direct renin inhibitors, centrally acting sympatholytics, drugs affecting the sympathetic neurons, and alpha-adrenergic blockers, along with their mechanism of action and structural activity relationship. In this video, we are going to discuss about the chemistry of vasodilators, particularly direct-acting vasodilators. So before going to discuss about the chemistry of vasodilators, so I just want to recollect the previous class. So in that previous class, we discussed about the chemistry of angiotensin receptor antagonist, direct renin inhibitors, centrally acting sympatholytics, and drugs affecting the sympathetic neurons, and alpha-adrenergic blockers. Alpha-adrenergic blockers. So when you see in the mechanism of action in case of angiotensin receptor antagonist, so they will block the action of angiotensin 2 at angiotensin receptor 1. So the angiotensin 2 action is blocked at angiotensin receptor 1. So that means these drugs will commutatively inhibit the binding of angiotensin 2 to the angiotensin receptor 1. Thereby the actions of angiotensin 2 at angiotensin 1 receptor is blocked. In case of direct acting renin inhibitors, they will decrease the or deplete the production of renin from the renal cells. Thereby it is not available to convert the angiotensinogen to angiotensin 1. So in that way it shows their antihypertensive action. In case of centrally acting sympatholytics, so they can stimulate the alpha 2 receptor. So these drugs will stimulate the alpha 2 receptors in central nervous system, and thereby they can reduce the sympathetic neurotransmitters like noradrenaline, adrenaline, and they can also deplete the dopamine. They are also inhibiting the dopa decarboxylase. Okay. And in case of drugs affecting the sympatholytic agents, they will inhibit the alpha 2 receptors in sympathetic nerve endings or sympathetic neurons, and also depletes the storage sites of these sympathetic neurotransmitters. And in case of alpha-adrenergic blockers, so they will act on alpha 1 receptor, shows their antihypertensive action. And when seen the example for these class of drugs, so in case of angiotensin receptor antagonist, examples are losartan, candesartan. So all sartans comes under this class. All sartans comes under this class. And coming to the vasodilators, these drugs will dilate the arteries and veins by different mechanism, and thereby they are classified as direct acting vasodilators and calcium channel blockers. So the vasodilators are subdivided into directly acting vasodilators and calcium channel blockers. And these directly acting vasodilators again divided into drugs acting on arteries and drugs which are acting on arteries and veins. Example for drugs acting on arteries are hydralazine, diazoxide, and minoxidil. In case of drugs acting on arterial and venous, example is sodium nitroprusside and other organic nitrates. And the second subclass of vasodilators, that are nothing but the calcium channel blockers. We already discussed this calcium channel blockers in anti-anginal drugs. Okay, so in this class we are going to discuss about the chemistry of directly acting vasodilators. So let us see one by one. Here we can see the chemical structures of hydrogen, diazoxide, minoxidil and sodium nitroprusside. So when you see in the hydrogen, it is a phthalate derivative. It is a phthalate derivative. That means it's consisting of a benzene ring and which is attached to the 2,3 pyrimidine ring. It is attached to 2,3 pyrimidine ring. So this is the pyrimidine. So this is the pyrimidine ring and this ring is attached to the benzene. So thereby it is considered as the 2,3 benzopyrimidine ring or benzopyrimidine moiety and which is attached to the hydrogen moiety. So this moiety is the hydrogen. So NH2, NH2. So this one is a hydrogen moiety and the 2,3 benzopyrimidine is attached to the hydrogen moiety. So in case of hydrogen, the chemical structure is nothing but 2,3 benzopyrimidine is attached to hydrogen functional group. In case of diazoxide, so it is related to the thiazide diuretics, but due to the absence of sulfonamide group at this position, it is not having the diuretic activity. Understood? So the diazoxide is nothing but the thiazide derivative. So it is consisting of a sulfadiazine ring and which is similar to that of the thiazide diuretics, but due to the absence of sulfonamide group, it doesn't having the diuretic activity. In case of minoxidil, so it is nothing but 2,4 diamino 3 nitroso piperidine derivative. So it is nothing but 2,4 diamino 3 nitroso and here it is a piperidine ring. So the chemical structure of minoxidil is nothing but 2,4 diamino 3 nitroso 6 piperidine 1-IL. So that is the structure of minoxidil. The minoxidil is the prodrug. So when it is converted into active form, that is nothing but minoxidil sulfate. So when it is converted into minoxidil sulfate, then only it shows the pharmacological action. In case of sodium nitroprusside, so it is a sodium pentacyanide nitrosoferrate. So which is nothing but the sodium penta, that means 5 cyanide molecules are present in this structure and that's why it is called as sodium pentacyanide nitrosoferrate molecule. So there is a ferrin is there. So to this ferrin, the 5 cyanide molecules and 1 nitroso group is attached and it is complexed with the sodium. Okay, so that is a chemical structure of sodium nitroprusside. And coming to the mechanism of action of minoxidil, the minoxidil comes under the potassium channel opener. Consider this one as the smooth muscle cell. To this smooth muscle cell, there are different type of ionic channels are present: calcium channel, potassium channel. And this potassium channel and calcium channels will exchange the ions from intracellular to extracellular or extracellular to intracellular based upon the electropotential gradient across the membrane. And when these potassium channels are opened, then there is a hyperpolarization occurs inside the cell. So when the potassium channel is opened, then there is a hyperpolarization will develop inside the cell. When the hyperpolarization is developed, then the smooth muscle cells itself automatically blocking the voltage gated calcium channels which are present across the membrane, and thereby the calcium influx into the cell is blocked. And when the calcium is reduced inside the cell, that is not available for formation of the calcium calmodulin complex. And this one is required to phosphorylase the myosin light chain kinases. So this one is required to construct the myosin filaments onto the actin. So that means a slide overing of myosin and actin filaments in the smooth muscle. So when the calcium is reduced, when the calcium influx is reduced, then it will reduce the calcium calmodulin complex, and that ultimately reduces the phosphorylation of myosin light chain kinases which are required to contract the smooth muscle. thereby the vasodilation occurs. So this is the way how the potassium channel openers like minoxidil will shows the vasodilation action. And when you see the adverse effects of this minoxidil, it can produce the tachycardia, fluid retention, hypertrichosis. So tachycardia means increasing heartbeat, fluid retention, that means excess amount of fluid is retained in our body. Hypertrichosis, that means high amount of hair growth. And generally this drug minoxidil is used in the treatment of baldness. There are different ways of actions can be proposed by the different authors for this drug. So first one is it prevents the oxidation of nitric oxide, and second one is it depletes or decreases the tolerance of cells to the nitric oxide, and it can stimulates the cyclic GMP. It stimulates the cyclic GMP. So these are the three types of actions which are proposed for the hydralazine by the different authors. So however, this drug can shows their action by producing or by stimulating the cyclic GMP. So whatever the way, so the ultimate action of this hydralazine is nothing but convert the GTP to cyclic GMP. So the ultimate action of this hydralazine is nothing but production of cyclic GMP. So whatever the way it is. So first one is a prevention of the oxidation of nitric oxide. So when you see in this, so the nitric oxide which is produced from the different sources is subjected to oxidation sometimes, and that oxidation is prevented by the hydralazine. And in some cases these smooth muscle cells may has the capability to tolerate against this nitric oxide, and that tolerance can be decreased by this hydralazine, and they can carry over this nitric oxide action on the cells. And the third one is a production of cyclic GMP. When the nitric oxide is produced inside the cell, and this can stimulate the guanyl cyclase, and it is required to convert the GTP to cyclic GMP. And this will dephosphorylate the myosin light chain phosphatases. So this can dephosphorylate the myosin light chain phosphatases, and this may lead to the vasodilation. And this will lead to the vasodilation action. So here the myosin light chain phosphatases are leads to production of vasoconstriction. So we already discussed all these things in anti-anginal drugs. When it is dephosphorylated, that means the myosin light chain phosphatases are dephosphorylated, then it is not available to shows their action on myosin and actin filaments that are required to constrict. Then it may lead to the vasodilation action. So once again I am repeating the mechanism of action of hydralazine. So the hydralazine will shows the vasodilation action by three ways. First one is a prevention of the oxidation of nitric oxide, and it can decrease the tolerance of smooth muscle cells to the nitric oxide. And third one is it can able to stimulate the cyclic GMP. So here the cyclic GMP is produced by the guanyl cyclase, and that guanyl cyclase is stimulated by nitric oxide. So when the nitric oxide stimulates the guanyl cyclase, the produced guanyl cyclase will convert the GTP to cyclic GMP, and this cyclic GMP can dephosphorylate the myosin light chain kinases or myosin light chain phosphatases, and that may lead to vasodilation. Why? Because these myosin light chain phosphatases are required to show the vasoconstriction action at smooth muscle, that means slide overing of myosin onto the actin filaments. So when it is blocked, so when it is prevented, so that may lead to vasodilation. So when you see the adverse effects of this hydralazine, so it can able to produce the flushing, tachycardia, fluid retention. These are the adverse effects of hydralazine, that are nothing but flushing, tachycardia, fluid retention, and it is generally used in the treatment of hypertension emergencies. And when you see in the mechanism of action in case of sodium nitroprusside, so we already discussed about the organic nitrates, how they can show their vasodilation action. And the same way, sodium nitroprusside also shows their action. That means the sodium nitroprusside is converted into nitric oxide by the RBCs. The RBCs will convert the nitroprusside into nitric oxide, and this will be entered into the smooth muscle or smooth muscle cell. Then it can stimulate the guanyl cyclase, and this stimulated guanyl cyclase will convert the GTP to cyclic GMP, and which is required to dephosphorylate the myosin light chain kinase. Thereby it shows the vasodilation or nothing but the relaxation. The adverse effects of this sodium nitroprussides are nothing but palpitation, abdomen pain, disorientation, psychosis, weakness. As same as that of the hydralazine, this sodium nitroprusside are also used in the treatment of hypertension emergencies. And this is about the chemistry and mechanism of action in case of directly acting vasodilators. And coming to the synthesis of some important antihypertensive drugs, so in that first we discussed about the synthesis of captopril. So we know that the captopril is the one of the antihypertensive drugs which comes under the angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitors. Angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitors. So let us see the synthesis process of captopril. The starting compound which is used in the synthesis of captopril is nothing but 2-methyl, 2-propyl, 2-propionic acid, and when it is treated with the hydrochloric acid, that undergoes addition reaction, and that will be converted into 2-methyl, 3-chloro-propionic acid. So 2-methyl, 3-chloro-propionic acid, and this will be treated with thionyl chloride converted into this intermediate. And when it is treated with pyrrolidine 2-carboxylic acid, then it loses the hydrochloric acid and produces this intermediate. And when it is treated with ammonium hydrosulfide in presence of methanol, it will be converted into captopril. Once again I am repeating the synthesis process of this captopril. The starting compound used in this one is nothing but 2-methyl, 2-propionic acid, and when it is treated with the hydrochloric acid, it will be converted into 2-methyl, 3-chloro-propionic acid, and when it is treated with the thionyl chloride, it will be converted into this intermediate. And when this is treated with the pyrrolidine 2-carboxylic acid, it loses the hydrochloric acid and it is converted into this molecule. And this will be treated with ammonium hydrosulfide in presence of methanol, and this will be converted into captopril. And when seeing the properties of this captopril, which is a white crystalline powder, it is dissolved in the dilute hydroxide and potassium hydroxide, and it can also soluble in water, methyl chloride and methanol. When you see the pharmacological actions of this captopril, the captopril is the one of the first drug which is marketed as the orally active angiotensin enzyme converting inhibitor, and it is used for the treatment of hypertension, heart failure, left ventricular dysfunction and post myocardial infarctions. This drug can be assayed by the potentiometric method, that means so by titrating with the 0.05 molar iodine, so this can be estimated, and it is stored in well closed airtight containers and should be protected from light. And the usual dose which is used in case of captopril is nothing but 12.5 to 25 mg twice a day. The dosage forms which are available for the captopril are nothing but the tablets. And the next important drug of antihypertensive agents are nothing but methyl dopa, so which comes under the centrally acting sympatholytics. The starting material which is used in the synthesis of methyl dopa is nothing but 4-hydroxy 3-methoxy phenylacetone. So 4-hydroxy 3-methoxy phenylacetone, that means, it is potassium cyanide in presence of ammonium chloride, and it will be converted into this intermediate. That means the carbonyl group which is present in the acetone is attached to cyanide and amine nucleus. And when it is treated with the concentrated sulfuric acid, then it can able to form then it is converted into L isomer of methyl dopa. So there is a ester group is formed in this case. So that means it is forming the ester group. So that is L isomer of methyl dopa. And when it is treated with the ethyl alcohol in presence of hydrochloric acid, then it will be converted into methyl dopa ethyl ester hydroxychloride. Methyl dopa ethyl ester hydroxychloride, so which is the active form of methyl dopa, or it is also called as methyl dopate. So this is about the synthesis procedure for methyl dopa. So I am repeating once again the synthesis process of methyl dopa. So the starting compound, so which is used for the synthesis of methyl dopa is nothing but 4-hydroxy, so this is 4-hydroxy 3-methoxy phenylacetone, and when it is treated with the potassium cyanate in presence of ammonium chloride, so this will be converted into this intermediate. That means the carbonyl molecule which is present in the acetone molecule is replaced with the cyanide and amine groups. So then after, when it is treated with the concentrated sulfuric acid, and then it will forms the L isomer of methyl dopa. That means the ester group is present. So that means the cyanide is replaced with the ester group. When it is treated with the hydrochloric acid in ethanol, then it is converted into methyl dopa ethyl ester hydrochloride. So methyl dopa ethyl ester hydrochloride, so which is also called as methyl dopate. This is about the synthesis procedures of some important antihypertensive drugs. So by this we completed the chemistry of antihypertensive drugs. Okay, in next class we will discuss about the anti-arrhythmia drugs. Thank you.